All right. I'd like to start out by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Racha Kodash. Welcome to another lesson. This is just pretty much a hit the button dated April 13th, 2025, the hopeful year of our deliverance and the destruction and judgment of Esau. I'm joined by the Elder Kanak.
Shalom, shalom.
And, we're just walking, about to go grab something and, just hit the button and see what the Spirit provides. And whatever precepts come up, whatever thoughts come up, pretty much, that's what we're going to speak about. Because there's a lot. You have something?
Yeah, I had a precept.
All right.
Yeah, this is Habakkuk 2 and 3. It says, for the vision is yet.
Start at 1.
Okay, come on.
Yeah, that's heavy because I was just about to say there's a lot of stuff happening,
Yeah, this is Habakkuk 3 and 1. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower and will watch to see what he will say unto me.
And that's what the watchmen are supposed to do. They're supposed to watch. That's the job of a prophet. That's the job of a true, to constantly watch and report on the things that they see.
It said, and what I shall answer when I am reproved.
Right, and what I shall answer when I am reproved, because we have to give account of, the information that we've been entrusted with. Remember, the Apostle Paul said, that we've been, entrusted with this knowledge in earthen vessels.
Yeah, we have this treasure in earthen vessels. It's like we're stewards of the Most High's business. That's says,
and the steward. When you go back to the word steward, it goes back to the word oikonomia, which goes back to the word economy, which means house management. So house management needs money, needs currency. What is the currency? The currency is this word that was given to us by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai through the Holy Spirit, the Racha Kodash, freely, and it was given to us abundantly, and that's why, we have to continuously trade and keep the, upkeep of this house, being the house of David, the tabernacle of David.
It says, verse 2, and the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables.
Right, and the Lord said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables. And that's what, the prophets did in the past, and now the prophets are back breaking down these different, prophecies that at one point were a mystery that most people didn't understand, because when you go during the time of the Roman Empire, during the time of the Holy Roman Empire, during the time of the Byzantine Empire, during the time of the Renaissance, even during the time of when the conquistadors first got here, and the first slaves, Southern Kingdom slaves were brought here to the shores of America, to the so-called Declaration of Independence and all that. Nobody knew these mysteries. Nobody was talking about Revelation and the breakdown of the MOTB and none of that stuff. And if they did speak about it, they didn't have the understanding of what it was. They were just given, an interpretation based off of what they might have thought it was in those times, and this is why you have individuals, you have like Edomites that would be on the public access years ago, in Connecticut, talking about there's going to be real actual locusts, giant locusts flying around and all this madness because they didn't have the mysteries.
It says that he may run that readeth it. It says for the vision.
Right, that he may run that readeth it. So either you're going to run, to safety, or you're going to run away from it. You're going to either run to it or run away from it. And, that's the bottom line. Go ahead.
It says, for the vision is yet for a appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie.
And that's the point. We're at the point now where it's actually speaking. At one time it was written. Well, actually, at one time, the vision was shown to the prophets. In this case, Prophet Habakkuk. Then, he wrote it down. And after he wrote it down, it remained dormant unto the time, when it would have to speak again. At the time when it would have to be fulfilled. And that's what we're, dealing with right now, the time of the fulfillment of prophecy as it's speaking. And then, once you read that verse, go to
Okay. Yep, it says, for the vision is yet,
if you want to say something.
yeah, the vision basically was sealed into the time of the end. And now the vision has been opened and able to interpret through the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai. But this will only be done at the end. This is another sign of we're at the end time prophecy.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get Daniel.
All right, I was there.
All right, bring it out.
Kind. It says, this is Daniel 12. It said, and
4, I believe it is.
you want okay, 4? Okay.
Is that the main point?
Yeah. It says, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book.
Right. So shut up the words and seal the book. So the book was sealed. So now when Yahushua came 2,000 years ago, he broke those seals, but there were still certain things that were not fully understood even back then. But Yahushua knew about everything that we see now, everything that we're experiencing. He knew about all of that. Remember what he told the disciples. He said, there are things that I, desire to tell you, but you're not, in so many words, you're not ready for it yet. So there was many things that Yahushua knew about that he couldn't share, with his disciples because they weren't on the level at that point. Go ahead.
It says, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end.
Right, even to the time of the end. And this is where we're at. We're in the end times. And these end times, many things have been revealed. And part of the destruction and collapse of an empire is the revelation of the wicked things going on within that empire and the sentencing that's put upon them by the words of the Lord, and then the judgment. For instance, you have the Neo-Babylonian Empire, which you had stand-in king, for lack of better words, or the forget what they call it, something regent. He was, which his name was Belshazzar. He was the son of Nabonidus. Now Nabonidus was the actual king of Babylon at the time, but he was out fighting different wars. And at one time he was imprisoned for like 10 years or something like that. This is in the history. Of course, the scriptures don't really speak about Nabonidus too much. They really focus more on his son Belshazzar. That was a vice regent, that's what it's called. He was a vice regent. So he was given the charge over the realm while his father was out fighting wars. And when he had the audacity to call for the goblets and the cups and stuff of the Lord, that's like, okay, this is it. Now it's time to judge him. So at that particular time, that was the appointed time for the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Today, we're at the point where we're seeing the total collapse of this American Edomite empire because this was their appointed time. And now we see the decay. Yep. And if you want to say anything.
Because it says in what is that, Job the 14th chapter, how the Lord has set a bounds that he cannot pass. So there's a particular moment, second, hour, that Esau is appointed to rule. And after that, that's it. He won't be able to rule 1 millisecond more, right?
That's right. That's right.
It says, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased.
Right, and knowledge shall be increased. And that's what we see right now through this tech age, which nobody back then knew about the tech age. The tech age didn't exist back then. The tech age back then would be, gunpowder. They figured out how to use gunpowder. They figured out how to make guns. Another high tech would be the crossbow. Instead of using the regular bow and arrow, they figured out how to use the crossbow. When they invented the catapults, which go way back, there was like different dynamics and technology that was prevalent in certain empires. You want to say something?
No.
But nothing like this has been the most backwards, the most wicked, but yet the most advanced empire technology-wise.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and this is why Esau is so proud, because he has a level of technology that no other nation came even close to. To technology where he can go to the heavens.
Right.
Technology to where he can shoot fire down from the heavens, basically.
That's right.
And no other nation was able to do that. The only time you will see something like that is from the Most High.
Yep.
So he's in that, he got that God complex, because he has this power that the Most High has given him. I'm gonna go back to Habakkuk.
Yeah, so pretty much, that technology that was given to him was ancient technology that the Most High had, that the Most High possesses. He just gave him the ability to tap in.
Yeah, he tapped in.
He tapped in because the Lord gave him that ancient technology.
Yeah.
The idea of flight is not anything new, but the ability to do it, with these planes, go back to what is Kitty Hawk, when they, in the early 1900s, when they first started, the prototype of the air, it went from that to these big ass jets. They even got to the, moving at hypersonic speed or whatever that was,
Yeah, which shows you that we are at the end. That's another indicator. That's another indicator of prophecy to let us know, because like Yahushua said, there should be wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes, stuff like that. You have scoffers say, well, that's been going on,
right?
And you're right, but not to the level of what it is now.
That's right.
As well, with the added technology of the MOTB that John the Revelator saw.
That's it.
No other nation was able to do that, or had, like the Babylonians wanted to do that. Well, they had the statue, right? They wanted you to bow down and worship when the music played.
Yep.
But they didn't have the full technology to implement that with total control.
That's it.
That is fulfilled in this time, where knowledge shall increase.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So I'm gonna go back to,
and that's the key word, total control. And that's the reason why, because they know as long as people have something to eat, place to live, lay their head down, clothing on their back, have family or whatever, they're not too worried about anything. But if you strip that from them and not allow them to get it, those necessities, they start freaking out. Like right now, we was watching a video, which I saw the thumbnail. Elder Pastor spoke about it. Elder Mawatazak did a video, I believe, on the same subject, but I actually saw the little, like 6 minute and 41 second video of this woman speaking about the subsidies being cut, from the farmers and the EBT and the SNAP and all that, that Trump is doing. So that's going to cause panic, because not only among Jake, but also among Esau, they're going to freak out, because they're the ones that get the most benefits from the welfare. You want to say something?
Yeah, it was the vintage shall fail.
Beautiful.
We're in a point where all these subsidies, all these goodies, all these amenities are going to be cut, and that is pretty much the collapse of this system to bring in that digital system of control that John the Revelator saw, which was fulfilled in the MOTB system. Okay, so that's where we're at, and that's an indicator that we are in end times. Okay, because even the knowledge of Yahweh Shemashai has increased.
That's it.
And like the Apostle Elder Gabar says, the internet does the heavy lifting. This is how we were able to receive this word in such hypersonic speed, and get the understanding so quickly. That was all part of the Most High speeding the time up for the elect's sake.
There you go.
So I'm back in Habakkuk.
And then the way that they set the system up and setting it up is to the point where, if you don't comply, you will be denied. That's a lesson. If you don't comply, you will be denied.
That's it. This is Habakkuk 2 and 3. For the vision is yet for appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie.
And that's what we see happening right now, because the Most High is not a man that he should lie. He said his words don't go out void. So if his words don't go out void, that means that he's going to accomplish everything that he said in the scriptures, whether you believe it or not. The Lord's concern is not if you believe it or not. The Lord's concern is, look, I told you to do something, do it. Because I'm going to hold up my end of the bargain. You know, you better hold up your end of the bargain.
That's it.
He said, I forgot what prophet he told it, be not rebellious. I believe Ezekiel. Right? Be not rebellious as this rebellious house.
Yep, that's it.
Because they're going to...
Open my mouth, open thy mouth and eat thy words that I give thee. So like, I just wanted to
No, beautiful.
You know?
You know, and you know, that was the bottom, you know, just tell them anyway. They're not. So it doesn't matter if they accept it or believe it or not. The Lord ain't concerned with that. You know, that's why we're not concerned with that. We're not concerned who get it, who not, because we're just out there to teach this word. And we know that once the elect hear it, the Lord will seal them. You know, we're not, flabbergasted and, all upset because, we're teaching the word and, a lot of jakes ain't getting it. We're not concerned with that. The Lord knows who his elect are. The Lord knows, who's going to receive this word, who's going to accept it, who's going to reject it. So our concern is not who's going to receive it or reject it. Our concern is to just go ahead and teach it, speak it, and let the Lord do his work. Let the Lord do his marvelous work. Go ahead.
Bring this out. Go on. 2 Ezra 15:1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord.
Right, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. What did Yahushua say? When you are brought into a situation, right? Back then it was being brought before governors and the Gentiles and, and these different leaders back then. Take no thought what you shall speak. Don't even think about it. That's why sometimes, you throw yourself at the mercies of the Lord, in spirit, and just pray to the Lord. Say, Lord, give us, the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Work with our minds, work with our spirits, that we may be able to do this lesson to feed thy sheep and thy lambs. And then let the Lord do his thing. Let the Lord work. So Yahushua said, take no thought what you shall say, because it shall be given to you what you shall speak in that same hour. For it is not you that speak, but the Spirit of your Heavenly Father that speaketh in you.
That's it.
That's why he got upset with Moses. Because Moses said, Lord, I am not an eloquent speaker, But the Lord said, look, don't worry about that. I got you. I said, all right. He said, all right, so, Aaron going to be your mouthpiece. All right, don't worry about it. Just do what I tell you to do. Because he was going to give Moses what to say. He's going to give his prophets what to say, how to say it, when to say it. Because at the end of the day, this is Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua's program. And a lot of these false prophets are acting like this is their program. You see? They're doing things according to how they feel it should run. According to, their so-called needs or whatever the case may be. But that's okay too. Because it has to go down that way. You have to remember that every scripture must be fulfilled. You have to have, the true prophets. You have to have the false prophets. And like Elder Apostle Gabar always says, there are more false prophets than there are true prophets. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, well, just kind of going back to what, just fall into the hands of Yahweh B'Shem, just receiving the Spirit, because the Most High that, he gives us the words to speak. He gives us the lessons, the inspiration. We read in Habakkuk, I will stand upon my watch and I will wait to see what he will say unto me. Because at that very moment, the Most High is going to work with your mouth to speak the words that he wants to come out.
Right.
And likewise with the false prophets, they can do nothing. They can do nothing of their own as well. That's the lying spirit that the Most High put in the mouths of the false prophets too. So everything that's going down, the Most High is writing off on it. Whether it be good or whether it be evil, whether it be a false prophecy or whether it be the right things to say.
Beautiful. Hey, he said, if a prophet be deceived, I, the Lord, power have deceived him. So you're gonna have that, and then you're gonna have false prophets telling false prophecies, and then you're also gonna have, those people out there, those Israelites out there, that were given over to those false prophets,
Yep.
you know, as their blind leaders, because they're blind to be destroyed. Just like you have the true prophets, and then you also have the true elect that's going to hear the word and be guided through the Spirit.
Yep. Verse 2, it says, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Fear not the imagination.
They are faithful and true. Remember, in Peter's, we have a more sure word of prophecy. And the Lord spoke to Daniel and told him that the vision is certain. You know, it's not something that's going to, well, maybe if, you know, no, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise.
Yeah, and this is why we speak with so much boldness, because we believe the words of Yahweh Shai, and that when he said he's going to do something, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
And we have the spiritual, the spiritual eye, you can say, to be able to see that this is actually what's going on. We're literally living in the where all the prophecies are getting ready to unfold right now before our eyes.
That's right.
As far as end time prophecies.
Yeah, and we see them actually unfolding. You know, we see it being, you know, the package. You know how you have those things where people open up a package. You know, they say unpacking whatever, the Hewlett Packard or this particular computer or this particular iPad. Well, the Lord is unpacking his prophecies right before our eyes.
Yep, they're speaking, as we read in Habakkuk.
That's it.
You know, they're speaking loud and clear. And well, Yahweh Shai also, what did he always used to say? He that have ears that hear, let him hear.
Yeah.
So the prophets' ears are fine-tuned to that particular frequency of prophecy, and able to understand and interpret it, and then also to go out and teach as well. Okay, so let me just read this last verse here, 2 Ezra 15:3. Fear not the imagination against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee.
That's right.
For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness.
Right. So the bottom line is the Lord said the fearful and the unbelieving and all that, they shall have their part in the lake of fire. So don't worry if people ain't listening. Don't worry if they're not being gathered. Because like the Lord told Isaiah, he even mentioned it in the letters of the Apostle Paul. If you teach and Jake is not gathered, guess what? You're still going to receive your reward. You know, because you did what the Lord told you to do. He said, blessed is that servant when his Lord cometh shall find so doing. Doing what? Doing what the Lord commanded. If you love me, keep my commandments, right? But one of the main commandments of the Lord is, he told Peter, if you love me, feed my sheep and feed my lambs.
So I'm back in Habakkuk. Let me finish this. Habakkuk 2:3. For the vision is yet for a appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Right,
because the Lord is going to make it happen. You know, it seemed like it's taking a while, but it's because the Most High's time is different from our time. See, he's not constricted to a time frame like we are, although, you know, he said he's not going to go against his word. You know, so he's bound by his word. You know, but we, you know, time to us moves a lot slower than it does for Yahweh, B'Shem Yahweh Shai. You see? So when you see all these things happening, what did Yahweh Shai say? Look up.
Look up.
For your redemption draweth nigh. And do everything that the Lord said for us to do, that you may be able to escape these tribulations and this destruction that's coming.
Yeah, the said perils. Because something that's said, it was spoken, before time. It's already set. It's already certain. So it's going to come. Beautiful. So it's whether you're going to get in line with Yahweh Shema Shai, not Yahweh Shema Shai get in line with your time. We on his time.
Right.
You know.
And a lot of you false prophets out there, you're making it to where the Lord got to fall in line with your program. The Lord got to work around your schedule. It don't work like that, dog. You know what I mean? You either get with the Lord's program or you get lost.
You want me to go to Habakkuk 3 or you wanted to?
Yeah, let's finish off there.
Okay,
Habakkuk 3, 1 and 2.
Yep. Habakkuk 3 and 1, a prayer of Habakkuk the prophet upon Shigionoth. O Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai, I have heard thy speech.
Right, I have heard thy speech. So when the elect hear the speech of the Lord, they're filled with what? With the fear, as to, okay, well, if this is gonna, not if, this is gonna actually happen.
Yeah.
And if I don't get myself together, the Lord's going to destroy me. He's going to jack me up. And that individual filled with fear, that Israelite filled with fear, is going to do what's required of him to be protected from the destruction that's coming.
Yeah, because Noah was moved with fear to start building.
Beautiful.
So likewise, the prophets, all right, starting with 144,000, they're going to be moved with fear, all right, to do the Lord's work, okay? And just as we're reading Habakkuk actually, the Most High actually showed the prophets the visions too. He like transplanted them, like almost teleported them into the vision. So they were like, they felt it. They were like, oh, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
So that was like another, they were even more invested. They were even more convinced that, oh, okay, this is what's going to happen,
Right. And that's not like, technically it's not really happening now to the prophets, but people are seeing those same visions that the prophets saw back then. So the Lord, really the destruction of America already happened in another dimension.
Yeah.
Because remember, we're pretty much, we're catching up. The Lord's way ahead, way far advanced, way ahead. We're just pretty much catching up now, in the year 2025.
Yeah, it says, "O Lord, I've heard thy speech and was afraid. O Lord, Yahweh Shemashah, revive thy work in the midst of the years.
Beautiful.
In the midst of the years, make known. In wrath, remember mercy."
Right. So revive thy works, meaning, you said you were going to do so and so and such and such. Lord, it is time for thee to work.
Yep.
Because the harvest is ripe. Everything is out here. The prophecies are popping like popcorn.
Yeah, everything that you told us, everything the Lord told us will be happening in the end days where our redemption is close, is happening right now.
Yep.
So we're like, hey, Lord, it's time. We know the Lord is going to work.
Right.
He and the Heavenly Father is working as we speak. Why do you think the Lord is raising up so many prophets, even the false prophets at that?
Yep.
Okay, to basically to finish the show.
That's it.
The end. We're at the ending.
That's it.
Yeah,
and this is like the great clash of true prophets against the false prophets. Remember, like when you watch them movies, you have that final scene where the bad guy and the good guy are fighting each other, and then eventually the bad guy loses and the good guy wins.
That's it.
So we're at the point where, like Elder Yashwamba says a lot, we finna win.
We finna win.
We finna win. You want anything
that
else?
was it.
All right, so with that, we pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time we say
Shalom.